safetyfm.com with Jay Allen. Changing safety cultures, one broadcast and one podcast at a time.
Welcome to Safety FM, where we talk about safety that's truly inspired by you. Hello and welcome to Safety FM. This episode of the broadcast and the podcast is brought to you by Safety Focus Moment. They are consultants that are trying to help you get to the safety culture that you're looking for. Well, hello and welcome to Safety FM. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for taking a listen. Thank you for being part of our lovely audience. I just want to say thank you for everything that you guys have done as of recent. You've really been taking a listen to the podcast, and we do appreciate it. And you have been interacting with us on social media, which is always a pleasure in regards of seeing some of the interactions that go on there. So not to make a long story, not to make it very short, just want to reference real quick. Today we have the pleasure of talking to Dr. Tim Ludwig, and he is actually on here today, and we are discussing his book, Dysfunctional Practices That Kill Your Safety Culture, and what you can do about them. Take a listen to this particular podcast. It was one of those interesting ones. Just really a fluidity to the conversation. Really enjoyed some of the detailed information that he did discuss throughout there. And we even go over the first chapter of his book. So take a listen here today on Safety FM. Hopefully you enjoy the episode. And make sure you stay tuned towards the middle of the podcast, because we got some big news coming out there.
safetyfm.com.
Well, good afternoon, Dr. Ludwig, and I appreciate you actually showing up here onto Safety FM. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Jay. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you coming on. We normally start off rapid fire. I know that you've been in the industry for quite a while, and I'd like to just start off with simple questions. I ask a lot of questions that some of us have the answers to, but I want to make sure that the audience becomes familiar with you and understands exactly your background in safety. So let's start off with the most important question I like to ask people. What caused you to want to get involved with safety?
Oh, boy. Well, I got my doctorate under the tutelage of E. Scott Geller at Virginia Tech, and quite honestly, at the time when I was doing research with them, we targeted pizza livers for their driving safety. And to be honest with you, at the time, I was really just using that as an applied laboratory. I was more interested in quality of work, and so that's what I thought I was going to go into. And in fact, I did go into it. For a while. After I got done with my doctorate, I worked with the Department of Energy, the new production reactor, the new generation of tritium bomb, kind of like the Manhattan Project for the modern age. So it got quite heady really quick. And I kept on that for about 6-8 years, working with the Department of Energy, Department of Defense, Department of Navy, and stuff like that. But my research in the safety world kept calling me. I kept doing research with Dr. Geller and on my own, build that repertoire of research out there, and then I started getting asked to speak at conferences and the like. And I tell you, something about the safety world. Once you start interacting with the people out there that are really, dedicating their careers to keeping each other safe and away from harm, that gets quite addictive. So mine was a bit of a slow grasp over time, but as soon as I caught the bug, I went all in for safety.
Oh, so when you did your first study, then when you were referencing that, you referenced the pizza delivery business. Now, I remember there was a company, and I won't mention them by name, that had the 30-minute guarantee. Oh, so that was the research that was done.
We were working with them while they had it. In fact, Dr. Geller's team was consulting with this particular company, and it's a big influence, along with our research, to get them to drop that marketing ploy. The fact was, they only took like 11 minutes to make a pizza. The rest of the 20, the problem was that if the deliverer didn't get there on time, it's usually the kitchen's fault. But they're the ones that lost money in the deal because they had a disincentive. They got penalized. Then of course when you finally get your pizza and it's free, the college students you're delivering to are less likely to give a tip. So obviously it influenced a whole degree of at-risk driving behaviors. So we did about, in the end, we did 10 years of data collection and a number of different projects with these pizza delivers, not only with that one company, but many companies in many different states. And it was the basis of my first book, which I think probably 5 people read. It was a very accurate book. But if you're interested in some interventions for occupational driving, it certainly has some empirical studies in there, maybe of interest.
And what was the name of that book in particular, if you don't mind me asking?
The name of the book was Intervening to Improve the Safety of Occupational Driving. It was published by Hallworth, and I'm not really sure it's still in print, but maybe a couple of books are bouncing around out there in the internet land.
Okay.
And certainly people can contact me at this point, and I can get them in contact with it.
And they would go to your website at safety-docs.com to be able to contact you. Is that correct?
That's correct. Okay. Contact link right there.
I just want to make sure. So you have mentioned Dr. Geller a couple of times right there. My next question for you would be, who has been your major influence for safety within your career?
Yeah, absolutely. It has to be Scott. We met each other some 35 years ago. He was beginning his major career out in the safety industry, and until that point he'd been doing safety belt research, buckle stuff with the state, and just all kinds of flash for life cards, and really built a body of evidence for his techniques. And about the time I got engaged with him, he was starting to gain a lot of entry into the safety world with Ford Motor Company and a couple other major companies, which funded our research, and then eventually became kind of an industry of behavior-based safety out there, along with a number of colleagues we were working with at the same time, building the basis of research behind that methodology. And so, without question, it would have to be Scott Geller.
Yeah, Dr. Geller was actually on a couple episodes back, and he was talking about how it all went through with the Ford Motor Company and how they were talking about doing a safety belt and not a seat belt, and how they pushed the organization on actually come indoors and let's have these conversations. His story is very interesting on how that all came about. And if I remember correctly, he had told me it started back all the way in 1979 with the Ford Motor Company.
That's true. And I started working with him in '86. So at that point, we had grants to test out whether or not a buzzer or a light or both, when you don't have your safety belt on, is more impactful in getting the belt on. And so we had a number of studies following up from that.
So in other words, you're saying that we can blame you and Dr. Geller for the beeping sound when you get inside of the car.
Actually found out that we don't need the beeping sound. We don't have to keep it on. So we're the ones that tried to get it out of your life.
Got it. Talking about that, I know that behavior-based safety is a very strong suit. We're talking to Dr. Geller, and there has been a lot of conversation in regards lately of human organizational performance. What do you feel the difference is between the two, and can you consider one better than the other?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's been disconcerting in the last couple of years as HOP, human organizational performance, has gained relevance and practice. Behavior-based safety was based on our science, behavioral science. I'm a psychologist. Dr. Geller is a psychologist. Those of us who created it are from an area of psychology called behavior analysis. And as we just discussed, we had decades of research, lab research, what we call efficacy research out in the field with certain companies like Ford Motor Company, these pizza companies and the like, designing the basis of what became the market for behavior-based safety. And it had a really strong beginning, a good run. Anything that lasts for decades is certainly a product. We have evidence of its success that we published over the years in my research, Dr. Geller's research, Dominic Cooper's research, Terry McSween, et cetera, et cetera. I got a list of about 100 different research papers on the topic. And then over the years, as anything happens, people think it's a fairly simple process, and so they just start marketing it on themselves. And because folks who really didn't understand the science got involved, it started getting watered down, and there was some bad implementation. And with that, obviously, the market grew, and then it became, in a good critical sense, question whether or not it's effective. So as a number of folks started writing whether or not BBS was effective, or snake oil, that kind of thing. And of course, they're citing the programs that don't work, and from a basis of science and practice, we want to go out and learn what works and what doesn't work. I work with a not-profit called the Cambridge Center for Behavioral Studies, and for the last decade, we've been accrediting the best in practice behavioral safety programs in the entire world. And so we have a list of best practices of things that work and things that tend not to work. And so when you start seeing programs that don't work, they're very easily lined up with some of the management practices and some of the design features that are associated with the ones that don't work. So because of this watering down of the process, people start questioning behavior-based safety. At the same time, there's been some really good work, and I think it comes out of a lot of the work in process safety as well, where we're trying to keep major incidents from happening, like explosions or fatalities. The off-cited data, as we've been getting better and better with personal safety through processes like BBS and other things, we haven't really chipped down the number of fatalities that happen every year, and certainly other process safety issues have been in the forefront with the Deepwater Horizon and other explosions and releases in the chemical industry and falls and crane falls and stuff like that in the construction industry. So as we move forward, a number of some folks who, coming from more of an engineering background, started seeing some of the systemic factors that go into the causes of these incidents, especially the unplanned incidents, are the ones that kind of come out of nowhere, and they're pretty large. And they built a nice repertoire of different things to look at in an organization system, like their management systems, their planning, the equipment facilities, and the like, which offer a really good analysis of when incidents happen, and an excellent process to try to predict where incidents may take place and mitigate those beforehand. What's been disconcerting over the last couple of years is where the BBS and HOP have been kind of squared off against each other. In ASSE 2017, Scott was in a debate where that was kind of the market for the debate. They had this argument, and it was one versus the other, and it's disconcerting because those of us from the science see that the behaviors when you're doing a BBS program and it's being done right, you are identifying at-risk behavior, sources of behavioral variance as people do their tasks, and from the behavioral perspective, as I try to describe in my book, we don't go blame the worker after. We recognize that the greatest percentage of the reason why people behave the way they do is caused by the system, the context that they're in. And so, when we have these at-risk behaviors identified in a BBS program, we look to system variables that put the worker in the position to take that risk to begin with, right? So instead of blaming the worker, we try to use the information that we've gleaned from the behavioral observations to identify the system variables, the training, the planning that went into it, the processes that's laid out in the SOP, the equipment, tools, facilities that they're working in, supervision, all those system variables that folks in HOP have done so good at delineating, right? So for those of us who have been doing this for a number of years, we see HOP and BBS as complementing each other in very strong ways, as opposed to being opposing methods.
And that's the interesting part, because when you start talking to people mostly out in the field, it's either one or the other for the most part. There's really not a lot of people that will sit here, just like as you said, that they complement each other. It's either, well, you have to do this one or you have to do that one. You can't have them both kind of coexist. And the issue that I run into is that when I hear that, it's in practice, as I go out into the field, I look at it and I go, you have to have a little bit of both when it's all said and done. And I know that some people are calling it as the new point of view of safety. And I just think that we're looking for wording to put behind it. And I'm not 100% sure as why are we trying to change the name when at the end of the day, we're trying to really accomplish the same goal?
accomplish the same goal, and we have expertise in both fields, and those two fields coming together, the engineering systems perspective and those of us who are behavioral engineers, we can really make a sound technique going into the future. So yeah, we got a new wave coming. It's really exciting.